Right, I keep getting a message
I'm
saying
all
that
right now.
the connection's unstable. So if I keep
Unstable.
I've got
If I
one or
keep-
two of those.
yeah,
It's
if
not
I
Sue
keep
that's thrown you out,
disappearing,
Keith. Not Sue that's
Hey?
thrown you out.
yeah, if I keep disappearing, that's why. So
You
right,
blacked out about a minute ago. Did
yeah,
you
that's
notice?
why. Yeah,
Happens to the best of us.
yeah.
Is John,
I've recovered.
is John not joining us this week, Keith?
No, John's not with us this week.
Oh.
For those who aren't aware, unfortunately, his partner Jenny, her mum passed away on Monday, early hours of Monday morning.
Oh,
I think
dear.
it was.
How
What
old was
COVID was it?
Oh, she was very old. I
Yeah.
think she was in her 90s.
Good innings.
Yeah.
Was
Ryan's-
that the lady who had the money stolen in the hole
Yes.
sometime?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear, dear.
Yeah.
Aye. Brian's not with us this week. He's got a meeting with the county FA at 11. So
You in trouble?
Yes.
No, they're making
Yeah,
I think-
I just said, Keith, I've got a meeting at 11, so I'll be dropping out just before 11.
and I think Brian's is more or less along the same lines as yours, Ron. Because
Finance,
he's a director of the county FA as well. So
yeah.
right. So
Carry on talking. I'm going to shut the blind. It's coming a bit bright on me in the conservatory.
The sun
it-
always shines on the righteous.
As well.
yeah, but
That's why he's closing the curtains, Chris.
yeah.
Avoiding trade's description, yeah.
They don't have that problem at Sky News, you know.
That's better.
Yeah.
See
So,
what I'm doing now.
as far as I'm aware, most of the group are okay. For those who know him but aren't aware, Glenn, who attends the Manor group, he's got COVID.
Oh
So,
dear.
At the moment, he seems to be okay, but obviously they're keeping a close eye on him. This is
Is that the first one of? It's the first one of both groups who've had COVID, isn't it? As far as we know.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll be all right unless we get e-COVID.
Yeah. I'm just hoping my computer's not got a virus. That's worse.
I think we're more likely to get BSE, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. So, with no further ado, shall we get on to Lol's news of the century?
Gets better each week, lol.
Before we start, I've made a New Year's resolution. So I've got some good news and some bad news about this. The good news is I'm going to cut my news down to 5 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
No.
The bad news is it won't be starting for 2 years. We'll start off with rugby league. You've got to do something about that voice of yours, Ian.
Talking
Not
of
me, it's Chris
BS.
Hall. It's Chris Hall. He's throwing his voice.
Not me. Not me.
The Leeds Rhinos have inducted scrum half Rob Burrow into their Hall of Fame. The club legend was diagnosed with motor neurone disease in 2019, 2 years after retiring. He spent his entire career with the Headingley side, where he made 493 appearances over 17 seasons. Burrow won 8 Grand Finals, 2 Challenge Cups and 3 World Cup challenges during a glittering career, and he is the 16th player to be added into the club's Hall of Fame. Now, in the latest honours list, Rob has been made an MBE for his services to rugby, plus his fundraising an awareness campaign for motor neuron disease. So well deserved.
Good for him. Yeah.
Hold on.
Now, while we're talking about New Year's honours, I've just listed one or two sports people who have received honours. Now, sprinter Donna Fraser has been awarded an OBE for contributions to equality, inclusion and diversity in the workplace. Exeter director Rob Baxter awarded OBE, and captain Joe Simmons an MBE for services to rugby union. Former British number 1 Anne Keothalong has been awarded an MBE for services to tennis. Barry Hearn has been awarded OBE for services to sport such as boxing, snooker and darts. And National League chairman Brian Barwick awarded OBE for services to sport and sports broadcasting. A long overdue award. Former England footballers Jimmy Greaves and Rob Flowers have been given MBEs, and they are the last surviving members of the 1966 World Cup winning squad to receive honours. And finally, 7-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton has been awarded a knighthood for his contributions to motorsport. Any comments on those various awards?
Not at all, except
Well, I think I said last week, I don't agree. I don't agree with nods when people are still performing. I'm not saying Lewis Hamilton doesn't deserve it, but I think they should wait till he retires. Personal opinion.
yeah, I share that, Ron, and I think that used to be the norm, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
I was going to say,
from Ian's point of view, they didn't they didn't award Jimmy Anderson a knighthood because he's still playing against Australia. You know, he's going to still playing Test cricket. It seems a bit unfair somehow.
I think the whole scheme needs radical overhaul, because in the public sector, and if John were here, he would back me up on this. In the public sector, there's a very well-defined process to put people forward for awards. And in fact, in some parts of the service, civil service, RAF, what have you, there are certain appointments that it's almost obligatory that at the end of that tour, you get an MBE or an OBE, you know, because your predecessor did and what have you. And it sort of brought the system into disrepute. You used to get people getting OBE, and they used to call it other buggers' efforts, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I agree with your sentiments.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris.
I mean, I think he deserves the knighthood, but I think he should work till he retires.
Yeah.
Chris.
I was just very interested to see the remarks of Mrs. Greaves, who did not hide her total disappointment with the non-honour to her husband of a knighthood. Yeah. And the other members of the family, his sons, one of whom I have met, they were just trying to say the honourable things, you know, it's a great honour, etc. But I think in the family there is a deep-held view that man has not been given the correct honours that his career and his work with recovering alcoholics and things like that deserve.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yes.
I find it quite
totally
distasteful
agree
that Lewis Hamilton wins a knighthood and pays taxes basically elsewhere, and we've got the greatest goal scorer in the history of our football nation, and he's still without a similar honour. I find it.
Another career after his football as well.
You used to get that, Chris, with bravery awards in World War II. There's guys that got Victoria Crosses. There's a guy called Willie Tate, a group captain, who flew with 617 Squadron, sank the Tirpitz.
Right.
So it's post-Ambus.
Wow.
He got 4 DSOs, and yet the civil service, and I blame the civil service for the process, they couldn't give him a VC, and yet the last citation read exactly the same as a VC citation. So, there's no rationale. And I always, they used to get guys mentioned in dispatches. The only reason that they mentioned in dispatches was that the case put forward for a DFC or a DSO, whatever, wasn't good enough administratively, technically, to pass it. But they still were as brave, in my personal opinion.
Oh,
They did some
Unbelievable.
phenomenal things.
Mm.
Wing walking on a
Unbelievable.
Lancaster to put the fire out. Try doing that at 1,000 feet.
Mm.
Goodness me.
I mean, I don't know if any of you saw the Antiques Roadshow on Sunday. I think it was
Yes.
Roadshow. There was a story about a chap who'd got 2 medals,
That's it.
but it was part of a group
Mm.
that, they didn't know who to give the Victoria Crosses to, so they did it by ballot. How would, you know?
Yeah. And he was in the ballot.
He was in the ballot.
The skipper of a
Wasn't-
Lancaster, Keith, would get the VC, not the 6 crew that flew with him.
Yeah.
Because the pilot took the decision, he'd get the VC. So don't you think the other 6 would be deserving of a DFM or a DFC? You know, to stick with it rather than bailing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in a way, this was even worse because what they were saying is that all of them were deserving of a Victoria Cross, but they could only give 4 out. I mean,
No, the Dam Busters, you mentioned the Dam Busters earlier. The second guy in after Gibson was a Cranwellian. Ha ha ha. Chap called Hoppy Hopgood, John Vere from the Vere family, Hopgood. He went in on 3 engines, having already been struck by flak en route to the target, so he persisted. He'd lost his one of his gunners, and he was wounded himself, and he went in on the second run, by which time Guy Gibson had woken up the Mona Dam defences. We're here. So
Yeah.
he took the flak literally. Bomb jumped over because the flying a 3-engine Lancaster is a bit tricky at 60 foot. You know, the bomb missed, right? And it was then shot down on the other side. Not a medal.
Wow.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
No.
I mean, of those honours that Lol mentioned, the tennis player, Anna Keothaongo.
Yeah, for yeah.
Gathafong.
Yeah,
With
I
a V.
mean,
What's that?
what's all that about? I mean,
She got it for being captain of the Whiteman Cup, though, not
Yeah.
for a playing career.
Ability.
She was captain of the Whiteman Cup team.
And the Fed Cup.
Right.
Yeah.
did they win
Yeah,
it?
Fed Cup might be the Fed Cup, Paul. I may have
Yeah.
got that wrong.
Yeah, no, yeah,
It was a women's tennis competition anyway, wasn't it?
correct.
But even then, you know, there's some footballers who've had extremely long careers who surely more deserving than a tennis player who's maybe had a couple of years at the top and well, not even at the top. She never reached the top.
No.
I just find it a bit odd that it's almost as if they've picked, oh, we'll have to do somebody from this sport and somebody from that sport.
There is a quota, Keith. You're absolutely right. There's a quota. It's a process, and you got to know how to work the system to get
Yeah.
the award, and that's not fair. But it's been going on for years, so we'll never change it, will we?
Hmm.
I mean, the whole thing's called the Order of the British Empire. Come on. Commonwealth.
They ought
perhaps?
to- someone's actually said that they ought to consider whether empire should be removed.
Yeah, they've been doing it for 30 years, mate, and they've still not made a decision. There's no VAR, you see. You see, without VAR, you can't get a decision.
Well, they don't
Right.
need to change the letters round to BO, do they?
Were we talking sport?
Talk sport, talk sport.
It's all right. They'll be
Go on
doing
then,
it
Lol.
Britain soon.
Go on, Lol.
Oh, you want to carry on, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit
Tell
on
us what you
tennis.
told us 5 minutes ago. We've all forgotten.
You start from the beginning, Lol.
Yeah.
Repeat.
I'll start with tennis then. Now, the Indian Wells tournament, scheduled to take place in March, has been postponed over the coronavirus concerns. The tournament, which is a combined ATP and a WTA event, which is one of the biggest and most prestigious outside of the Grand Slams, was also cancelled last year. It normally attracts crowds of more than 400,000 fans each year to Indian Wells, and organisers are looking at dates for the event to take place later this year. A little bit on who's playing a tune?
Sorry, it's somebody ringing me again. Sorry.
Name that tune.
A little bit on Andy Murray. Now, he's pulled out of this week's ATP event in Delray Beach, but not because of injury concerns. He had accepted a wild card to start his 2021 season at the Florida event, but given the increasing COVID rates and the transatlantic flights involved, he wanted to minimise the risks ahead of the Australian Open. Players have to pass a series of COVID tests during a 14-day quarantine in Melbourne before the start of the Grand Slam. A little bit on athletics. Joshua Cheptegei has said his focus is on becoming just the 8th man to successfully complete the 5,000 and the 10,000 double at the Olympic Games. The 24-year-old Ugandan set world records over both distances last year, adding to the 5,000 metre world gold he won at Doha in 2019. Speaking to the BBC World Service Sport, Cheptegei said, "It will be a mountain to climb, but the challenge is up to me." Think he'll do it, Paul?
No idea. Sorry.
I thought you might be one of his followers.
No, I've not heard of him till then. Sorry.
I've heard of him, but I think Mo Farah might have something to say about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
No, I think Moore's past it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spent too long on the road to get his track speed back might be a very big problem.
We'll nip on to darts. Now,
It's not a
8th
sport.
seed Dave Chisnell
Not a sport.
produced a superb performance to stun world number 1 Michael van Gerwen 5-0 to reach the PDC World Championship semi-finals. Chisnell had not beaten the 3 times world champion in their last 27 meetings, but hitting 14 180s and averaging 107, he totally dominated for a shock win. The event was eventually won by Welshman Gerwyn Price with a superb win over 2-time champion Gary Anderson by 7-3 in the final at the Alexandra Palace. Price missed 11 match darts before securing the title at the 12th time of asking with a double 5. The former professional rugby star only started competing in the PDC Tour in 2014 after winning a place in qualifying school. Now, you say it's not a sport, but the prize money is good. First prize is 500,000, second prize 200,000. The losing semi-finalists both get 100,000, and the losing quarter-finalists both get 50,000. All 4 get 50,000. So it's fair money.
How does that compare with Strictly Come Dancing prize money? I don't know.
They're not get $500,000 for winning that.
Don't they? Okay.
Don't be surprised.
Right. I don't know. I think strictly the stars get different.
I'm going to have to leave, gentlemen. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
See you, Ron.
Ron. Ron.
Bye.
They do, Ron.
I think the people who are going to Strictly get different amounts for actually appearing.
Well, that glitter ball's got to be 10 quid.
Yeah, I don't think they actually win a prize for actually winning it other than the glitter ball.
Right. It's got to be all of 10 quid, that.
Yeah, but it's a route to it's a route to other things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oti Mabuti or whatever her name is on tour. What are you
Doing
laughing
what?
at?
Will they give out OBEs for that as well soon?
No doubt.
Oh,
No,
I'm sure they will.
just plaster casts if you've had an injury.
Yeah. Go on, Lol.
Right, we'll nip on to snooker. Snooker's biggest invitational event, the Masters, was to have been played without fans due to the tighter COVID restrictions in London. Organisers had hoped to have up to 1,000 fans at each session at Alexandra Palace, with the tournament scheduled to take place from the 10th to the 17th of January. It has now been moved from London to Milton Keynes to follow COVID regulations and take place in a bubble environment. Those with tickets will have them transferred to next year's event, or they can request a refund. Now, with last night's news from Boris, I don't know if that'll take place. What do you think?
It shouldn't do.
Should do.
It depends on.
Is it classed as an elite sport?
Oh, I thought so. Wouldn't you? It's a professional elite
It has
sport.
done so far, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because they played the World Championship, didn't they? Behind
Yeah.
closed doors.
Yep.
I mean,
What happened?
snooker clubs will be closed, but snooker tournaments like that, I thought, would have
Mm.
classed as elite, like golf clubs.
It depends because, such as the Premiership, the football Premier is going to be played, but the Championship looks like that's not going to be played.
Do you think we should? Do you think we should, as a committee,
Yeah.
should be an advisory body to the government? Because we're coming out with a lot of good stuff here, you know.
Yeah.
And
Better than some of
and
those
before
sort
the
of
event.
Well,
They talk rubbish as well, don't they?
we can't do any worse than Boris because he was on the telly on Sunday saying, "Oh, we must go back to school," and then on Monday he comes back out and says, "We're closing everything." He's hopeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a virus that attacks people who are unfit, unhealthy, and obese. So what do? We shut the gyms and the pools.
Yeah.
Great thinking, that.
I think, Paul,
he's
I could have
hopeless.
a debate with you on that because I think the obesity and what have you has been long-standing, and I don't think a quick session in the gym is going to solve that. Isn't it partly dietary?
Yeah, I mean, obesity is just one of the things, but you know, putting
you're right.
yourself in a fitness
are-
environment is going to help, isn't it?
We are an
'Cause-
unhealthy nation and therefore
Yeah.
vulnerable. Mediterranean countries seem to be a lot fitter.
Yeah, if you could see the amount of trouble that gyms and swimming pools have gone to make the places safe, you wouldn't believe it.
Absolutely right. I heard that from my stepson.
Yeah.
And also my son. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a friend of mine who's got a card shop who's now got to close. He had a regime of one person in, one person out. You know, only one person in the shop at a time, and yet he's now got to close. Yet you go to Sainsbury's.
Yeah, and it's pandemonium. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
and
lick
there's
your
gonna
own
be-
lick your own
there's gonna be
envelope
lo-
in that card shop, don't you?
Yeah. But there's going to be loads of people in those shops. Yeah, a shop where just one person at a time has to close. It's bonkers.
I think it's people generally have made extreme efforts to make their environment safe, entertainment, or retail industry, and what have you. But like the schools, you just got to get one idiot not obeying the rules, and you jeopardise everything. That's what's
Like a
happening.
Premier League footballer.
Sorry.
Like a Premier League footballer.
Yeah, it's so
Yes,
sad.
big-
I don't get it.
Just
Big
what I
Paul.
was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say. I'm very, very disappointed that these professional footballers have breached this, that, and t'other. Very disappointed.
They don't
Yeah.
have brains, do they? That's the problem.
No.
No.
Pampered, aren't they? They're pampered, aren't they? As soon as they go to the club, everything's done for them, and I think they think that it owes them a living, and they can just do what they want.
I think,
Yeah.
to be fair, to play devil's advocate, I think you're generalising. Dion Dublin and the other lad that was on Sports Preview, whatever it is, you know, on BBC on a Saturday, they were condemning these guys who are a minority.
Oh yeah.
And actually doing down all of the efforts that others are doing, like Rashford and Henderson and many more. It's just a society problem. There are those who think the rules are not for them.
True.
Yeah, but you know, well, I think they should make examples of the players that break.
Do you know what I would do, Keith? Do you know what I'd do? I'd turn the hose on them.
And then whip them.
Well, no, you got to catch them first when you've hosed them. I mean, they're 100 miles.
Right. But I mean, just going back to the clown called Boris, it's just,
Greatest Prime Minister.
yeah,
Of last year.
the fatal mistake
Try
made.
putting yourself in this position.
The fatal mistake he made was putting London and the southeast into tier 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting everybody else into tier 3. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The
As soon
number,
as it affected London, we all have to jump to it.
That's right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And Keith, is a corollary, where did the variant 2 start? In the
In
southeast.
south.
So
But
when
I
all this
must,
is over, somebody will do the analysis and it'll come out the woodwork how much we got wrong. I mean, it's taken us all by surprise and it works so rapidly. But I agree with you, there's some fundamental errors that have been made.
yeah, but he keeps making the same mistakes
I'm gonna say, and still making them.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm not sure I believe this variant business. I think it's just that it's blasted on again, and to hide the fact that he's made a fundamental error, he had to come up with something that the reason why. Anyway, that's my own thoughts.
Nothing to do with snooker, that. But anyway, follow the science.
Right, but
Lowell's just not getting on with this, is he?
No,
no,
He really is dragging his heels.
5 minutes. What's happened to 5 minutes?
I know.
come on, no.
Come on, Lowell.
Get
Okay.
on with it, Noel.
Right, cricket. A former Indian captain, Sourav Ganguly, is in a stable condition after having a heart attack. The 48-year-old president of the Border Control in India is responding well to treatment. Ganguly, he played 113 tests for India, as well as 311 ODIs. And he was captain in 49 of those tests between 2000 and 2005. He has held the post of president of the Indian Cricket Board since October 2019.
Wow.
A bit more on cricket.
Hang
Now,
on,
if John had been here,
Hello?
if John had been here, he'd have had a song about Ganguly.
It would.
I was just going to say, was he in the Scouts before?
He can go, yeah.
Come on, Keith, improve on your jokes.
We need locking up, never mind locking down.
A little bit more on cricket. Now, the England touring party, they've flown out by special charter plane to Sri Lanka, where on arrival they had COVID tests, followed by being sprayed with disinfectant by airport staff wearing protective suits. All the tests were shown to be negative, but it has now been announced that all-rounder Moeen Ali has been tested positive, and he will have to isolate for 10 days. Fellow all-rounder Chris Wokes, who has been deemed as a close contact, will himself now have to self-isolate and be subject to further testing. The first of the two tests starts a week on Thursday, and so they won't be playing by the looks of it.
I would have isolated the lot, Lol, because if you've been on air-conditioned aircraft and one of you's carrying the symptoms, which are discovered in the next 24 hours, I think the whole lot are subject to review, aren't they?
See, they had COVID tests before they actually flew as well, which all proved negative.
Perhaps it was the
But knowing
spray.
how he must have had it, and it's not picked up.
Or he had his umbrella up when they sprayed the disinfectant.
Yes.
Come from pilots had it.
It tends to say separate from the rest of the team anyway, so they've probably taken that into account.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that the Indian team have said that they won't travel to, is it Brisbane, to play the final test? Because they will have to go into 14-day quarantine in order to play the test. And they said they're that fed up of it, they're not going to do it.
I don't blame them. Don't
Fair
blame
enough. Shouldn't be there in the first place.
Wouldn't pay them, but I don't blame them.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, we'll carry on to football now. How much time have we got left, Keith?
Football.
We've got 2 minutes 21.
Well, do a little bit on football. Now, Grimsby Town, they've reappointed Paul Hurst as manager on a 2.5-year deal. Hurst previously spent 5.5 years in charge of the Mariners between March 2011 and October 2016. The former Shrewsbury, Ipswich and Scunthorpe boss replaces Ian Holloway, who resigned on the 23rd of December. The former Manchester United and Scotland man, Tommy Docherty, has died aged 92 after an illness. Docherty played for Celtic, Preston, Arsenal and Chelsea and won 25 Scottish caps in his career. He then went into management at Chelsea, Rotherham, QPR, Aston Villa and Porto before becoming Scotland boss. Now, Docherty also took charge of Derby, Preston and Wolves before retiring in 1988. He'll be best remembered for his 5 years in charge of Manchester United, including an FA Cup triumph in 1977 against Liverpool when they won 2-1.
Yeah, he also took them down.
It took most sides down, didn't it?
Took most times.
I wonder how many.
Right,
I wonder how many.
right, chaps. Well, we're less than 1 minute, so let's wrap this one up and we'll be back and we'll continue with Lol's News of the Century afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.